Hello once again, everybody. Welcome to Soccer's Overtime, your weekly look inside the San Diego Soccers and the Major Arena Soccer League, coming to you live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/San Diego Soccers. Craig Elston, Jerry Jimenez, back with you for Season 4, Episode 14 of Soccer's Overtime. Hi to everybody watching on our YouTube replay. Hello to everybody listening to the audio podcast a day later. We are back with you to talk about a star-crossed weekend. We crossed the stars and came away with a victory, albeit in overtime. Mr. Jimenez, great to see you once again, my friend.
Good to see you too, sir. It's good to be back. What a game it was. I'm excited to get into this one. Not what we were expecting, but I mean, we did say that it could be one of those, games that we couldn't tell. We weren't going to know. Knowing the Stars had back-to-back games, one against us, one against the Fury. I mean, maybe we'll get into what happened against the Fury for Tacoma, but, we knew that they were going to have to pick one to put in all their effort, and it looks like they did it against us. So we'll get into it, but welcome everybody in who is joining us now. Good to have you guys. Good to see you guys. Good to, get to interact. If you're not already following us on Twitch, please do so. Let's have some fun today, man. We have some cool stuff to talk about, so at least there's that.
We got a great show lined up. And, the winning ways keep on going for the San Diego Soccers, 10-0-1. We got nothing to complain about here, so we won't. We will be doing no complaining for the most part during this week's edition of Soccer's Overtime. As Jerry said, special hello to everyone who's made it in early and is joining us on the comments thread here on Twitch. We'll be mixing in your comments and your questions as the show continues. Coming up on this evening's live presentation of Soccer's Overtime, the Soccers are tested by Tacoma, but pull it out in overtime. The MASL makes a number of big announcements. How will they impact the fan experience at Pechanga Arena, San Diego? We'll talk about that. And coming up at the bottom of the hour, 5:30, as we come to you live on the West Coast here of the United States of America. Coming up at 5:30 p.m., we will be joined by a Soccers great, a four-time champion as a player, a champion as an assistant coach. Chiky Luna will be our live guest coming up at 5:30 this evening. So we'll get to hear some of the behind-the-scenes thoughts of the San Diego Soccers from a man who helps assemble this roster every year, the man who is right in the middle of any trades or transactions that the Soccers make every year, and a guy who's right there next to Phil Salvaggio on the game day bench, home and road. That's all coming up. Soccers news, MASL news. We do have a couple of announcements in Soccers news that we are excited about. That's the menu for today on Soccers Overtime. All right, let's get things started, Jerry, by talking about Sunday evening's game. And the Soccers came off a stretch of playing 5 games in 10 days, 3 games in 5 days during that run. Then they had, a solid 6 days off to go Sunday to Sunday to take on the Tacoma Stars this past Sunday, a 5:05 kickoff at Pechanga Arena, San Diego. And, Jerry, we talked about it so much last weekend, wondering if at the end of the week that perhaps that Utica City game would be a trap game, would be our Admiral Akbar game, where the Soccers would be lured into their opponent's trap. And turns out we had the right idea. We were just 1 week late. It was this week against Tacoma that Admiral Akbar finally turned up. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
I knew he was going to be there. I knew he was lurking somewhere underneath the bleachers.
It was a matter of time. We talked about it. And yeah, like you said, we thought it would be Utica. Luckily it wasn't, but it happened against Tacoma. And, they really gave us a run for our money that game. And sure enough, I think we ended up on the better side of the trap game, I would say. So, I mean, some people may not necessarily consider it a trap game, seeing as we won. I'm hoping there isn't any more of these. I looked at the schedule and I don't really see any other ones that could possibly be, but you never know with this league. That's the thing that's so exciting about this league, is that it is pretty competitive, regardless of some of the score lines at the end of the season. When people really turn it up and it starts getting interesting, you start seeing some more upsets, hopefully not any on our side of things, but it's just one of those things that you just really never know. You never know.
So the Sockers and Stars meet again for the third of 6 meetings, but for the second of 4 within 5 matches for both clubs. And when you think back to last Friday and Star Wars night, and I see you're wearing your Star Wars night jersey, Jerry. I've got mine over the shoulder here, hung up the 619 Sports jersey. We roll in now. If you're watching live on Twitch, the highlights of the Sockers and Stars. One thing was pretty clear when you were at the arena, Jerry, on Sunday night. Tacoma came in with a game plan. The Stars were going to slow this game down. They were going to play at a snail's pace. They were going to try and slow down the scoring, keep the game low scoring and close. And I think the biggest evidence of that was seeing Nick Pereira, who's been one of the best target forwards in the MASL since the MASL came into existence, not playing forward, and instead being back in the midfield, directing a lot of the action from really outside the offensive red line and allowing either Vinny Dantas or Logan Jones to play down low. It was a definite attempt to try and slow the tempo. And I got to say, it worked pretty well.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely played in their favor. And that was, yeah, very interesting to see that those little changes. And I think, again, it goes back to, these teams actually putting in an effort, saying, hey, doing their homework, saying where can we find those openings? What can we do in order to possibly give us an edge? And in this situation, changing Pereira to that position really helped them. Um, you know, Also, man, we have to talk about Waltman, because Waltman just kept them in the game. There we see a shot by Rojo. I was right behind Danny Waltman's goal, that shot. And I mean, you heard it off the chest. This guy is powerful. He's been playing for so many years and has just not lost any of that skill. If not, he's had to step it up, and he definitely did this game as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Danny Waltman, I said it on the broadcast. I've said it on this podcast many times. He is a future indoor soccer Hall of Famer. Danny Waltman, in his era, the best goalkeeper of his era. And his era continues to 2022, but we're at the end of it. We're at the very end, and maybe not the very end. Maybe he comes back and plays again next year, but we're toward the end of Danny Waltman's career. And now at age 40, Danny's not going to have it every night. He's not going to lead the league in wins or goals against or save percentage anymore, because night in, night out, he can't be the best keeper in the league. But on any one night, Danny Waltman can still be the best keeper in the league. Danny Waltman can still be that vintage version of himself. He can turn the clock back a decade. And we saw that on Sunday night against the San Diego Sockers. Waltman was sharp. You're starting to see some of the highlights of Waltman just absolutely denying people, not on the second goal, of course. That one was out of his reach, but just about everything else that he could get a paw on, even one hand on Sunday, Waltman did a great job of parrying and really changing the game, frustrating San Diego.
Yeah, and I see it here in the comments. One of the things, that I found really interesting was just how different it was to watch this Tacoma team that we played against and them play against Ontario. Now, I didn't do the research. I'll be honest. I'm not sure if there was any changes there, with whether it was with Pereira, or I did see Dantas actually have plenty of opportunities as well. But it's just it was such a good match to see the power that is Danny Waltman. I just can't stop singing his praises, because he just really, really did a fantastic job against us. And then also on top of that, I would say we had plenty of opportunities. I mean, what were our shots on goal? Maybe you can pull up some of those stats, Craig, or you may know them off the top of your head. Like, it was ridiculous.
It was. I want to say it was something like 30-18, the final shots
Oh my
on the night. And it's funny because, as you know, Jerry, and we've gone through all of the soccer Fury box scores from the last few weeks. San Diego has routinely been outshot in a lot of their games. They've been that team that plays defense and then counters, and they're also the team quite often, obviously at 10-0-1, they're the team that's had the lead more often than not, and thus has been able to play a defensive second half where the opponent really has more shots. I was actually a little bit off, Jerry. It was 30-16 the shots. And in a true rarity, the Sockers outshot Tacoma in all 5 quarters, including the 3 minutes of overtime. So San Diego had, the most chances. And I do want to say, kind of like right here, on the broadcast and watching the game in person, I was really unimpressed with San Diego's effort. Like, I just didn't feel like the passion, the intensity was all the way there for the Sockers club. But when I watched the match back on replay Sunday night and into Monday, you really do see Waltman's effect on the game in terms of stopping 3 or 4 goals that could have altered the momentum of the match and turned it into an entirely different match, and keeping it right there. That low pressure strategy only works until you're forced out of it. And the Sockers never forced Tacoma out of it. The biggest lead they ever took was 2-0. If you get up 4-0, they can't continue to play the low pressure game that they were able to play very effectively during this match. So, I kind of wanted to say that toward the top of the podcast today, is that in the fourth quarter in particular, I was pretty critical of the Sockers for not having the pilot light lit in terms of their passion. And while I still know that there is a different version of the Sockers than the one we saw on Sunday, I think saying stuff like that takes away too much credit from what Tacoma did, which is they really gritted down, they really played a defensive game, and they let their great keeper be great on that particular night. And what's the result? They still lost, but they forced it to overtime, and they really pushed the Sockers to the edge. If one good shot goes in, if Caceres' shot with 1:47 left goes crossbar down and in instead of crossbar down and out, then the Sockers probably lose that match.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I don't know if you would agree with this, but it feels from the outside, maybe not looking exactly at the numbers, but it almost feels like the Sockers, in those moments when we are up and then end up kind of, getting caught, and the opposing team kind of meeting us and catching up with us in the scoreline, it almost feels like we get a little bit complacent, like a little bit too comfortable. Maybe going into this one, we felt like, okay, we had this one in the bag type of thing. And what ends up happening is that we mirror the other team for the second half and allow them to maybe pressure a little bit more, because you're mentioning Tacoma's game plan, that kind of slow it down, keep it close type of game. And it almost felt like we got complacent, and it allowed them to kind of catch up on us and catch us on those mistakes. However, shots on goal tell a different story here. I mean, it's almost double that of Tacoma. It's just we have to finish those. It felt like, well, one, it was obviously, we said Danny being the big part of it, but also we just have to do a better with putting those. I mean, 30 shots. Would you say that that's Waltman, or was that us just not being able to complete those?
I think there's a combination,
Okay.
And when I go back to the passion question, what I saw during training last week was a club that was really in recovery mode the entire week, in terms of very light practices, very light, not the finishing work that you sometimes see, not the really intense. Usually the Sockers will at least have one day that's a very intense practice that goes 2+ hours, and that everyone's just, dripping when they come off the field. And really, it was much more of a, hey, let's get guys back. As you remember, Jerry, we had about 4 or 5 guys coming out of those 5 games in 10 matches that had something wrong, some type of little, either was a groin, a hamstring, a shoulder, whatever. They've got aches and pains. So I feel like because of that, there was a natural sense of like the intensity drops a little bit, and then you've got an opponent that you just handled. You just beat them up 9-3, where the game really wasn't competitive. And so it leads to that mental complacency. And while I really do think that when you watch the tape back, the Sockers weren't physically complacent in the match. They hustled, they defended, the Sockers didn't leave open guys for the most part. It was a real effort, but the thing was, it just, that sharpness wasn't there. That finishing wasn't there. There was a perfect example late in the fourth quarter when it was 3-3, and there was a lovely run by Guerrero Pino, who came off the far door on the bench, came crashing in on the back post, was completely wide open. The pass hit him, plunk, was clunked between his legs. You know, it was just like clink clang and no good. And that was just kind of the feel, is that either Waltman's getting in the way or the Sockers are getting in their own way. And they did that a couple of times. But there's one guy we haven't talked about, and we just saw a huge save from him on the highlights as we're watching back here on Twitch, and that's Boris Pardo, because there wasn't just one goalkeeper in this match. Boris Pardo played 63 minutes and 17 seconds and allowed only 3 goals. And especially, I think, in the first quarter, Boris was very, very sharp, made 2 or 3 plus saves, bonus saves, that prevented Tacoma from taking the lead and maybe even further changing the dynamic of the match. So, and Pardo, we just saw before the Escoto golden goal, made a big save denying Pereira in overtime that could have been the game-winning goal. So, you know, it ends on an incredible individual effort by Brandon Escoto, you know, decleating multiple stars and putting it in perfectly past Waltman inside right post. You know, very similar to that double overtime playoff run that he had against the Stars, setting up Eddie Velez in the crease, where he left 4 guys in the back. And that's a wonderful way to wrap up the game offensively. But if not for Pardo, the Sockers just lose this game, and they lose it in regulation.
Yeah, no, it was such a interesting ending to it. We saw that Rojo miss, which, I mean, it was just him and Waltman, and Waltman does his thing, and then Escoto basically manages to get the ball slightly after that and says, "Here, let me handle this," and just does what Churras does. Controls the ball beautifully. Like, what awesome, just what a beautiful goal that was, but also what an amazing showing of his skill with that ball, right? I mean, he took on the defenders by himself, made the space for himself, and then put the ball in the back of the net, giving the Sockers the 4-3 win in overtime. Just it was a really fun game to watch, even though it was a lot of I would say smaller errors that maybe we shouldn't have made, but at the end of the day, we come out with the 2 points. I strongly feel like it should have been 3. I think immediately after the game, and maybe those that were there present would agree with me, it almost felt like a loss, which it shouldn't have. But I don't know. How did you feel? Did it kind of feel that way too?
100%. Jerry, from my standpoint, it felt like a point lost.
Yeah.
It felt like a match where the Sockers, to some extent, didn't take care of business. And then, I mean, you heard it in my game-winning call. I said Tacoma deserved it, but the Sockers stole it. You know, and that's really how I feel. I feel like Tacoma deserved the scoreline. I think that Tacoma deserved the victory. And in many, many soccer worlds, they would have gotten it. But it's so hard to beat this Sockers team. You know, it is very, very hard to beat this Sockers team, because even when multiple parts are misfiring, and consider on Sunday, Leonardo de Oliveira, no goals, no points. Christian Gutierrez, no goals, no points. Juan Manuel Rojo, who had 9 points in his last 3 games, no goals, no points. Tavoy Morgan had an 8-game goal scoring streak. No goals, no points. Tavoy, who was very questionable to play the game with a sore groin, and played okay. I mean, made a couple of really nice moves in the match, but still, you know, no goals, no points. So it's one of those things where, you know, I can do the old game of, if I told you before the game, you know, that this would happen, that these 4 players would all be shut out, you know, what would you say? And I'd say that's probably going to be a really close game, and the Sockers are going to either lose or they're going to win by a goal, you know. And sure enough, Sockers won in golden goal overtime, thanks to Brandon Escoto. So, you know, credit to this club. They're built different. Flashback to last week's title. They find ways to win games when they play their best. They find ways to win absolute dogfights that are back and forth, and they find ways to win when they're not playing at their very best. And we've seen that a couple of times. We saw them win a game in Chihuahua where, you know, they fell behind in the fourth quarter and it looked like they were going to give one up, and they found a way back. the one game where they took the loss, they were trailing in the final minute, scored a goal, found a way to force it to overtime. So you love that aspect of this Sockers team. They've got so many ways to win. They can beat you in so many different directions. And then you just say, okay, let's tighten the screws. You kind of got away with one here. You got 2 points. It's a point lost. You're at 27. You could have been at 28, but you got 2 more matches against the same team on Friday and Saturday this week in their house at Accesso Showwear Center in Kent, Washington. So time to tighten the screws, figure out what you did wrong, figure out how to take care of the Tacoma low pressure game plan, and let's get to work, because there's 6 more points up for grabs this weekend. And we'll talk about it more after the interview, Jerry. But I mean, as we are seeing in the MASL and in the MASL West in particular, if you ever let off the gas, teams are going to come rushing up on you in a hurry.
100%. And there's a team that's behind us that is catching up. Could this have been the game? Just that 1 point difference, can it make a difference? Yes, again, and we're seeing that now. And it really got me to think, if we had that point back in the future, I'm gonna think back to this and say, hey, could the Soccer Stars game that we should have taken 3 points on made that much of a difference? And honestly, right now it feels that way. So I guess we'll find out soon enough. We do have quite a few games coming up that are going to be very important. And my understanding is also that Ontario has quite a few games against Tacoma coming up. So kind of how we had our series against them. Tacoma now is going to be facing off against Ontario. What is it? 4 more times since last game. That should be interesting.
I think they've got 3 left. Because they definitely played at the beginning of the year.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And then they've played the last 2 weekends in a row as well. You know what? I'm going to pull up for later when we get to MASL. I'm going to pull up the Fury schedule. We can go through the Fury schedule to some extent and just kind of see how everything lays out for both clubs, because the Sockers definitely have a challenging schedule left. Let's see where Ontario's lays out as well. We'll figure that out as we get along. But yeah, 27 points is great. It's second in the league. It's tied for Kansas City, although Kansas City has 1 game in hand for the second most points. It's 3 behind Florida for the second most points, but also 6 regulation wins for the San Diego Sockers. That's starting to add up. If you look at it and you go 4 overtime wins, that's 4 points surrendered. 1 overtime loss, that's 2 points surrendered. So the Sockers are 10-0-1. But they've left 6 possible points off the board so far. It's almost that's 2 losses essentially. So 4 overtime wins and 1 overtime loss adds up to 2 regular losses in a weird way. In terms of just points missed for the Sockers. And the funny thing is, you really do start to wonder, Jerry, like, what's it gonna take to finish first in the MASL this year? What's it going to take to be top of the table? Because you've got a 10-1 team, a 9-1 team, and a 10-0-1 team at the top right now. And like at one, it's a conflicting thought in my mind. All right. On one side, this side of the brain is going, okay, you just have to go all out the whole season and, maybe go 23-1, and that might be what it takes to get to the top. And then this side of the brain over here is saying, hang on a second. You were part of a soccer squad that went 23-1 and lost in the playoffs and regretted after the fact that they maybe peaked at the wrong time and that they were playing their best in the middle of the year as opposed to playing their best at the very end of the year. So isn't that kind of a weird dichotomy, Jerry, in terms of like, we don't want the Sockers to start struggling and playing poorly. That doesn't seem like a good thing. But at the same time, it's like you're on a train where the brakes are broken. It's accelerating. It's accelerating. You're like, I don't even know that there's a chance to ever take a breath.
Yeah. Welcome to MASL, where nothing matters and the points don't count. No, at the end of the, I don't know if that's how you say it, but honestly, what's really going to matter is how the playoffs go and how that ends up. First of all, we need to make it in there, and then we'll go from there. Every single time that I think about it and I'm like, oh, they should have won that. We should be in first place. But do we have to be in first place? I think as a supporter, you always want your team to be winning. You always want your team to be number one throughout the entire season. Now that would be amazing. But like you said, we have had a season where it's 23-1, and then we lose in the playoffs. So if whatever is happening now where we're not finishing the games, 100%, we're going into all these overtimes. If we can fix these little things and tweak a little bit in order for us to really be the team that we know we can be in the playoffs when it really matters, then I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. And
Hey,
listen, it's way better to win these, right?
yeah, look, I part of us doing this live show is bringing in the fans, right? And so Miss What's It 411 said, I wanted to go to Tacoma again since it's the only place I can see them live. But my boyfriend's family has a thing in DC and I couldn't convince him to skip it, even for back-to-back soccer games. Best advice ever for JG. Time to drop the boyfriend.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, priorities. Let's go.
I hope
Priorities.
this,
And as we wait for our live guest, I saw a couple other great questions that came in the chat, Jerry. And we got a question asking about the status of Brian Farber. And Brian Farber has an issue with his plantar fascia in his foot. And it was a situation, if you've ever had plantar fasciitis, which is when the plantar fascia is a tendon that runs, it attaches to the back of your heel and it runs underneath your foot on the sole under the sole of your foot. When it is strained and it is in pain, it represents as a burning heel pain. And by the way, I'm speaking from experience. I had plantar fasciitis for a couple of years in the late 2010s, and it feels like your heel is on fire when you step out of bed in the morning. And often it is a very long-term injury that just takes a long time. And sometimes the tendon tears. And that's what happened to Brian. He came back, he played one game, and then the tendon tore. So he's back walking. He was on crutches before. He's back walking. But I don't honestly expect to see him back on the floor this year. Not to say that it's impossible 2 months from now, and maybe come playoff time that he could be part of this. But and I love that from Eddie Bear there. It's true. If you won every single game in overtime, right? At 2 points each, that'd be 48 points. And then the team went 12. No, that'd be 36 points. I don't know that his math is right.
He's being sarcastic. Which, by the way, shout out to Eddie Bear, because all of the recaps of the games that we show on here are on his YouTube channel. So go and follow him. He deserves a follow on YouTube. He does all the highlights for all the games for the Soccers. He beats us to it, so we just don't do it. We just let him do it because he's so good at it. So there you have it. Thank you, Eddie. We really appreciate you, sir. Your work does not go unnoticed. Just wanted to throw that on there.
Absolutely. Yeah, Eddie Trujillo, absolutely outstanding. His pictures we use so often on the feed. When you see those beautiful pictures so many times, you are seeing Eddie's. And then also Gerardo Jurado, who we brought up last week, but just repeating it, Gerardo Jurado had a spiral fracture in his right leg. He is in a walking boot. And while Jurado has some oh, I see. Eddie's saying you win 12 regulation games and then you lose 12 times in overtime. Damn, Eddie. You got it all figured out. Sorry about that, everyone listening on the podcast. Me reacting to something I read that you can't see. Eddie made the point that you can go 12-12, have 12 regulation wins at 3 points for 36, 12 overtime losses for 1 point each, and that would add up to 48. While you could also go 24-0, winning 24 times in overtime and have 48 points. So a 24-0 team and a 12-12 team could have the same number of points in the MASL.
That's nuts.
That is wild.
Wow.
Oh, man. So, yeah, hey, look, the Soccers midfield has taken a ton of hits since the beginning of the year, hasn't it? Yeah. I mean, Jamie Lovegrove moved back to Dallas. Iran Puerto Ruiz couldn't get him out of visa limbo. To me, in my mind, Iram is just hanging out at Corner Sport Arena in Chihuahua, just kind of hanging there with some headphones on and just going, hey, anybody need me? Anybody need a spare midfielder? That's not great, obviously. And then Urraro down with the broken ankle. Farber, who you expected to, if nothing else, be a really strong depth piece for this team. He's been out for the whole year. There's been a lot in the midfield, and it's shown us, I think, the depth that the Sockers have, that they've been able to roll and roll and roll and not have a big, hump in the schedule, a big speed bump, even with all the injuries that they've had. Hey, it's the bottom of the hour. We're at 5:30. Time to welcome on our special guest tonight. He's a man I've known since 2009 when he was the clutch man on set pieces for the San Diego Sockers, their power play midfielder, their power play captain. He was the offensive clutch hero of the 2012-2013 Ron Newman Cup Championship with the golden goal in overtime in the semifinals against the Las Vegas Legends. Won 4 championships as a player, retired, moved into the front office, became director of player personnel, moved to become an assistant coach on the bench, during which he won his 5th championship in 2021. In addition to everything else, he's the boss man of Calafino Tequila. He is my good friend Miguel Chiky Luna. And for the first time ever, Chiky Luna making a live appearance on Soccer's Overtime. Chiky, Craig, and Jerry here with you live on Twitch. Thanks so much for joining us.
Guys, thanks for having me on. Gregor, that's quite an intro, man. That's something for me to live up to now. That's a big hype. Hope I can live up to that, man.
Hey, we're doing the best we can, to try and get you lifted up. Try and pump up that gas,
There you
pump
go.
up the balloon.
Nice.
Before we get you on.
There's something going on with your audio. Just really quick, want to make sure that I'm not sure if you're using the mic on here, it should be fine technically, but you can adjust.
Yeah. Can you hear me fine now?
No.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to have Jerry drop you back out just for a second so that we can get that set, because it's got a little it's double pinging. We're getting an echo on his audio, and I want to hear from Chiky after that big intro. I want to hear from Chiky because we're talking about this club.
Chiky, if you can hear me, go ahead and log back in. I'm about to kick you out of the studio just to double check. Yeah, got him out. Just want to make sure we get so you guys can enjoy this this interview, because Chiky Luna is somebody we have to talk to. I'm very excited to ask him. I'm having a paloma, by the way, of extrañejo. Don't tell nobody.
No, well, you should tell him.
Oh, shit.
Eddie Trujillo coming in.
Don't tell my boss.
With an audio wall of score, Chiky. Yeah, that's true. We were getting the ping. Let's bring back in our man. What's up, Cheeks?
All right, how's that? Is that any better?
Hey.
That was definitely your fault, not mine. Oh, come on! I can't do that. I would never do that to you, Craiger.
It's okay. It's all right. I would have blamed Jerry anyhow. It's okay.
It's fine. I'll take the blame. I'm gonna be perfectly fine tonight. Just letting you guys talk, because I'm over here enjoying one of these. I'm having a paloma, so just saying.
There you go.
Don't tell my boss. That's my boss over there. Anyways, I don't even know.
One of my favorite things, Chiky, after every game, and maybe it's the next day in the office, sometimes it's on the phone or on text, but it's just to kind of to get into your mind, bend your ear a little bit, because I think we often enjoy kind of talking about the match and breaking it down. So with that as the preamble, what was the assessment in the coach's room? We were just talking about it. We just went through the highlights here on the show before you came on. A big win for San Diego, obviously a point lost or surrendered in the standings by being forced to overtime. When you guys broke it down, when you went through your coach's call, what was your assessment of Sunday's match?
Well, I'll start off by saying, we were happy that we got the W at the end of the day. No game is going to be easy. We wanted the game to be much easier. And honestly, I think that was part of the problem. We got the W, but it felt like a loss, to be very honest with you. I never expected us to go into overtime in that game, especially being up 2-0. I felt our team was a little too laid back going into the game. I think a lot of it has to do with us, coaching staff. We took a lot of blame on that day, and you know, we left them after being on that long road trip. What was it, five games, I think, in like 10 days. And it was hard on the guys. And the week leading up to the game against Tacoma, we took it easy. Guys, practices were a little bit more laid back. And I think that had a big, it was a big issue. You know, we were easy, trying to let the guys heal up from being banged up a little bit. As you can see, we didn't have our full squad on Sunday. But, you know, that's no excuse. Tacoma didn't either. But I think we approached the game a little bit too laid back. We weren't prepared mentally or physically. You know, we were lucky to get the W to a certain point.
You know, and along those lines, Cheeks, I mean, isn't that a tough spot for a coaching staff to be in terms of you just went through 5 matches in 10 days, including 3 matches in 5 days, you know, an extremely intense schedule. So on one side, you really do have to back off because you don't want to have 14 injured players, you know, for your next match. But at the same time, it's really that balancing act, isn't it? In terms of where's the intensity versus where's the physical exertion.
100%. We were trying to be careful throughout the whole road trip. How much do you push the guys? You know, how much do we have to sit back and make sure we don't get an injury? I was very surprised, to be honest with you, that we did not have more injuries after playing those 5 games. I was expecting a few other guys to go down with injuries. Luckily, you know, we escaped. We lost Jurado in that spell. Felipe is a little banged up. You know, he was nursing an injury, so we sat him out on Sunday. But it is that balancing act. We don't want to peak now by any means, but at the same time, we are very competitive and we want to win every game. So it's balancing that out. You hit it right on. How much do we push them? How much do we let them rest? You know, even you know, mentally, it can drag on. We want to make sure we're winning games, but we very well know that right now we don't need to peak right now. Right now, we're just trying to gel, play better, get the chemistry going, and we know when this team needs to peak if we want to win again.
Along those lines, Chiky, if I had told you, let's just say the day before you left for Tacoma for that December 11th home opener, if I said to you, hey, guess what? 11 games from now, the club's going to be 10-0-1. What would you have said?
No chance. I think this point in the season, I think I had us at 7-3. You know, the first 10 games, I had us at 7-3. You know, going into the season, you know, you can call it 8-3. You know, 11 games in is probably would have been a fair assessment, and I would have been that. To be 10-0-1 is fantastic. I'll take it. At the same time, the way the point system works this year, we know we've dropped I think 5 points now. So
6 actually. Yeah, we were doing the math earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, you know, any other year, that's 2 losses right there. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at. You know, moral victories, sure, we'll take it. However, like I said, it's great that we're here now, but I remember being 23-1 one season, and then we lose to Monterey in the playoffs right away. So, you know, we just want to make sure that we are going into the playoffs, you know, healthy, and clicking at the right time. You know, that's what the season is all about.
Wanted to ask you about a couple of players, one of whom has been here for a while, another who was here, left, and came back. But these 2 guys are, to me, and I've been saying it the last couple of weeks, the secret sauce of the San Diego Sockers, and that's Christian Gutierrez and Juan Manuel Rojo. You know, 2 Tijuanense, 2 guys who have come up playing together, very similar in terms of age, but in terms of speed, Chiky, I think the one thing that the Sockers the last couple of years as a veteran club, a club that was starting to get a little bit older, was lacking was just that pure speed, the ability to burst and beat someone off the dribble, and the ability to stretch the floor on a counterattack. And you see game in and game out. I know they didn't score against Tacoma on Sunday, part of that due to Tacoma really laying back and not allowing too much for the counter. But you're seeing every game these guys get out on the end of long passes, using their speed to create opportunities. Do you agree that Gutierrez and Rojo have really kind of added a different spice to this group?
100%. Gutierrez, for example, he grew up a lot last year. Gutierrez went from being a good player to being a superstar in this league. You know, I don't want to say that out loud, and I don't want him to hear that because, you know, I want to keep him grounded. But, you know, he's done a great job. Confidence is there. He's scoring. He is, you know, he's genuinely one of the hardest working guys out there. You know, people that don't know him, we train in the mornings, and Gutierrez is at the gym every afternoon getting a second workout in on his own. Not too many guys in this league are doing that. He's either, you know, he's over at Olympus with Anne-Marie at our gym. He's either doing therapy, he's getting a massage, or he's running and hitting the weights. So every day he's doing double days, and you can see it out in the field. Rojo, like you're saying, he stepped. To be honest with you, he has far exceeded our expectations this year. We know the talent he has. Obviously, you know, you're talking about speed. That's something that, you know, you can't teach. However, he's done a great job getting himself ready, being fit. Much like Gutierrez, the confidence is there. He is playing at a high level, and he's very confident right now, which is something that we need. Yeah, we were slower, and we were very well aware of that. And that's why we had to kind of revamp. We had to get younger. We had to get quicker. I don't want to say we were in full-on rebuild mode, because the word rebuilding, you know, when it comes to the Sockers, you know, you can't have a rebuild year per se. You know, we're expected to win every season. So we've just kind of been rebuilding the team on the go, making sure we're competitive and making sure that, hey, we got to shoot to win the championship every year. And we're going to keep doing that.
While we've got you here for a couple more minutes, Chiky, I just wanted to ask maybe a couple more personal questions in terms of making that transition from being a player, from being a guy who needed to show up at practice, you know, put on your boots and curve that ball into the upper corner, right, on a set piece. And then to have to make that switch to having the coach's mentality, to being that critical thinker who isn't just exulting in the win, but is analyzing, and to become the guy that has to work on negotiating contracts, negotiating deals, thinking about trades. What was that transition like for you?
It continues to be a learning lesson every day. I'm very blessed to be able to be out there with the guys, right? That transition became easier because I didn't have this beautiful game taken from me from one day to the next, and I didn't have to necessarily walk away 100%. I just kind of recycled myself, right, into a role. I'm still out there on the field. I'm still in the locker room. I'm still involved with the guys, which has made this transition a lot easier for me, going from a field player to being, you know, part of the staff now. I wish I could have played another 10 years. But, you know, for one, I was never the fastest guy out on the field. I always had to, you know, analyze and think a little bit faster. I had to think one step ahead in order to compete with these guys that were way faster, bigger, stronger than me, right? I couldn't rely on my physical abilities like a Gutierrez, you know, like some of these guys that are just big, fast, strong. That was never me. And I think that also has helped me in this role, because as a field player, I had to learn how to analyze, how to be smarter than the other guy. So making the transition, you know, just it was very similar. I gotta learn how to be smarter, be a step ahead, just think a little bit more than the next person. So that's always been my, you know, the thing I've had to do in the soccer world. I either have to think a little bit more and be smarter, or I'm not going to compete with these guys that are physically gifted.
And last thing before I let you go, I mean, a thinking man's game is also the business world. And that's where you find yourself. You are coming to us right now from the Calafino offices. That lovely portrait of yourself and your father behind you above your head. And of course, Calafino is a daily interest, a daily concern for yourself as the head of this tequila company that continues to grow and grow. What have you learned over the course of the last, what is it now, 4 years that the Calafino's been here, or is it 5 already?
Oh man, we're going on to 5 years now. 4 years, and we that whole COVID year kind of goes to the side. But yeah, we're 4 years now strong, and much like soccer, it's competitive. I'm learning something every day. I'm trying to grow as a person. I'm trying to grow in every aspect. Just like on the field, I am very competitive. I don't like to lose. Every now and then I'm lucky enough to throw on the boots still, and I jump out there and practice with the guys. And even when I get out there now and I practice, I hate losing. I have Brandon running at me, and when I can't keep up with him, I have to kick him to keep him from running because I'm competitive. And same goes for business. I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna be try to be smarter than the next move, and I'm gonna figure out a way to win. That's just it's in me. It's the game. It's what I'm chasing. I want to win. I always tell people I think I hate losing more than I like winning. So I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna work hard. But I'm going to figure out a way to win at the end of the day.
And if you have to kick George Clooney, I mean, you just kick George Clooney.
Oh, boy. Yeah, let's not go there. But, yeah, hey, whatever I have to do, I'll figure something out.
Chiky, we really appreciate the time, brother. We'll see you at training on the training ground tomorrow morning. I know Thursday it's a flight up to Tacoma. It's back-to-back matches Friday and Saturday night on MASL TV. Best of luck to the coaching staff. Best of luck to the club. Thanks for sharing a few minutes with us here. This is our little online hangout every Tuesday night.
For sure. Thanks for having me on, Jerry. I like the drink you're having. That looks fantastic.
Oh, it's so good. You should go and check it out. It's this company called Calafino. I don't know if you've heard of him. No, yeah. Sorry that I was on the sidelines. I was making sure your audio was good, so I took a little bit of a break. But I appreciate your time, Chiky, and we'll talk very soon, hopefully.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
There he is, Chiky Luna, folks, assistant coach for the San Diego Sockers, director of player personnel. In the background, while I was doing that interview, Jerry was on his roof holding 2 pieces of wire together in order to keep Chiky's audio from ghosting on us.
I will say there may or may not have been some aluminum foil that was also involved in that. It kept going in and out. I don't know what happened. I've never had that issue before. That was really weird, but I figured out like a quick repair. I don't know if you noticed, like as soon as it started going bad, I would go back and fix it. So I appreciate you taking over that one. I'm kind of bummed. I wanted to ask Chiky more questions about Calafino, and if I could get some more, because I'm actually out. Honestly, honestly, Calafino, and I'm not just saying that because I'm part of the Sockers organization, and Calafino is kind of attached to that, but it's really good tequila, man. I'm hired by the Sockers, not Calafino. I can say that. Calafino is actually really good. The extra añejo, you guys,
unbelievable.
I actually say, and if you've had it, you'll probably agree with me. But somebody on here said, "Oh, here we go." Ben said, "I ordered some Valentine's Calafino for the wife. They have like a sale, and I was actually thinking about ordering it for my wife too, because my wife loves tequila. But it comes with like a pack of chocolates, and then you have your sampling type of your tequilas. You have your blanco, you have your añejo, your extra añejo, and then it comes with pairings of chocolates for those. I just found that to be so genius, because that is such a cool gift you can share and have with your loved one. And man, it's really good. That's all. I was enjoying my time over here pushing a button, making sure that he sounded good. But man, what a wealth of knowledge. And also I saw a few people that are like, lace them up, Chiky. Oh yeah, here we go.
Hey, he'd still be good for a set piece point or two. There's no doubt about that.
I love that he also chose to mention that Brandon, because Brandon is who he goes after. It's like, I mean, if you can keep up with Brandon, who is, you know, minute. I mean, I can say that because I'm about his height actually, and so we have that center of gravity as an advantage. That is very difficult, as you saw with that golden goal. Like that is an advantage to somebody who is of smaller stature. But you know what, Craig? I don't know if you know this. My grandma used to tell me, "Don't worry, mijo," because they used to make fun of me because I was short. I'm 5'4", by the way. My grandma would say, "Don't worry, mijo. Height is not measured from your feet to your top of your head. It's measured from the top of your head to the skies." So, boom, take that, tall people.
I've never heard that one before, but your abuela, that's some wisdom right there, man.
She just felt bad for me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, let's get into some soccer's news now. A few headlines and a few things just to kind of get in your mind, get you ready for upcoming home events for the San Diego Sockers, because we've completed half of the home schedule. Believe it or not, 5-0-1 at home, 5-0 on the road. By the time the Sockers are done with this crazy 3-match road trip that we'll be talking about at the end of the podcast, that'll be 14 out of 24 games done for the year. But the second half of the schedule has some incredible nights that I think everyone is going to want to be there for each and every one of these. And let's start with the Sockers' next home match, which is Friday, February 25th, Sockers versus Kansas City Comets. Now, you're watching this, which means you're an MASL fan. So you already know that Sockers versus Comets, if nothing else was happening, would be one of the 2 or 3 biggest matches of the year in the Major Arena Soccer League. The Comets are, 9-1. The Sockers are 10-0-1. Both teams have 27 points right now. So it's a match that could very well be critical to determine seeding in terms of who's going to finish first, second, or third. And that is if all these clubs hang on to win their division. Of course, Ontario would like to change that in our division. So a gigantic match, a match that will have every eyeball of the MASL on it Friday, February 25th. But then at halftime, the San Diego Wave will be making a public appearance as a team for the first time, coming together on our field for a halftime pep rally. So you'll get to meet the head coach and the executives and the players of San Diego Wave FC. Yes, we are talking to Wave FC about making sure the whole team, Alex, the whole team is there.
I already put in a request too. I messaged them. I was like, "Hey, can you get the entire team to show up? That would be amazing." So yeah. We're definitely making sure that happens.
That is the plan, I mean, like, we're not going to throw her in the back of a white panel van and drag her. She's got to want to come, but I think she'll want to come. I think the whole Wave will want to come. They've been an amazing group to work with for the last couple of weeks. It's been really exciting collaborating with them. They've been super responsive. They've been super professional. And we just can't wait. As we did with Loyal, we do with Wave. We want to have an intimate, collaborative, professional relationship with every other pro club here in San Diego. And
shout out to the Sirens, by the way. Shout out to the Sirens, who's going to be showing up in full force as well. Siren Supporters Group, the supporters group for the San Diego Wave, will be there too. So that'll be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a blast. I mean, really, that weekend is going to be one of the best weekends of competition in the MASL all year. So you've got the Friday night game, you've got the Sockers and the Comets. And by the way, team poster giveaway that night, which is very exciting because, Jerry, the mask mandate is dropping on February 15th. California made it official.
It's official.
God,
yes.
Thank you, God. We're going to have the chance to have everybody in Pechanga Arena, San Diego, comfortable and relaxed and able to have a great time. We're going to have groups out. And listen, when I say that, for anybody who is concerned, obviously you can still wear a mask, and you can still, and there's still so much room at Pechanga Arena, San Diego, that if people want to socially distance, if people want to, take in the match that way, they absolutely can. But I know there's a lot of people who have been tired of and listen, we went through the Omicron wave. It was a real wave. It was gigantic. It was incredibly unfortunate for the Sockers to have to play 6 matches in this circumstance. But now it's ending. It's ending. Thank God it's ending. And so we're very, very excited for these games the rest of the year. And we mentioned the 25th. Now, Sunday, the 27th, Milwaukee Wave in town. And it's the last 2 holders of the Ron Newman Cup facing off against one another. This is one of the marquee matchups of the entire season, Soccer's Wave. And I know that Milwaukee got off to a slow start. Now you see what they're doing. They're back in playoff position. They're starting to make them move up. So we want an incredible match atmosphere for that Sunday, February 27th match. So we're giving away Thunder Sticks. We will have a fan fest, a Noche Latina fan fest out at the parking lot at Pechanga Arena, San Diego, starting at 3 o'clock. So you can get a little lubricated, get a little excited, do a little pre-gaming, have fun outside, come on inside, 5 o'clock kickoff, Thunder Sticks, bang those bad boys together, really create a loud, exciting atmosphere, hoping for a lot more supporter culture that night as well. And a big, big weekend. Kansas City Friday, Milwaukee on Sunday, February 25th, February 27th. Tickets at stsoccers.com/tickets. You can also call 866-799-GOAL. Now, Jerry,
I don't know if you know this. I'm getting sneaky with my designs. I did a little bit of a design here. As you can see, if you're looking on the screen, what's in the background? It's a sarape design in the back.
Ooh.
Catch that, did you?
No, I just thought it was a pattern. I'm not observant enough. That's brilliant, man. That's the subtle, it's the details that are always what gets you the win.
Right.
Yeah, and well, S. Barber brings up a great point, because there are several things that people are very used to, very accustomed to experiencing at soccer's matches that, because of COVID restrictions, we've been unable to do. Take, for example, the Parade of Champions, right? Bringing all the kids out that come from soccer groups to come out and ring the field and welcome the team out on the field, for pregame ceremonies. That's something we haven't been able to do. Having the guys do autographs after the match and go around, the glass and sign autographs and take pictures. That's back in play as well. And because the mandate's lifted, we can do autograph signings for the team poster night, which still workshopping. Stay tuned. Come back to me next week or the week after Soccer's Overtime for final confirmation. But that's certainly our intent. I know that's what we're talking about at the office is reestablishing these things that we consider traditions and parts of attending a San Diego Sockers match. And of course, always with public health, front of mind and centered in our evaluations and in our experience. Nonetheless, that is the direction we'd like to go. Now, the match after that, Jerry, Soccer's on a little bit of a homestand there, will be March 6th. That was a date, by the way. That's a date change. That was a date change that came at the beginning of the year, because there's a big boxing match that's coming into Pechanga Arena on March 5th. Originally, it was a Saturday match. It got pushed back to Sunday, but Sunday, March 6th is Alumni Night. And I want to mention a couple of things here, because these are things that were in play back in 2020, but it never happened because COVID shut us down before we got to the alumni game. But I really think that this year's halftime alumni game is going to be special, and it's going to be one of the best that we've ever had. Here's why. For the first time, we are playing a real game. It's going to be 6v6 with substitutes in the alumni game. In previous years, they played all in. And so if you had 30 alums, you'd have 30 alums on the floor. And it would be 15 versus 15. And there's no room for anyone to dribble. And it looks like a possession drill at practice. So this is something that years ago, we started to hear from certain players who said, I want to play the alumni game, but I want to play a real game like I used to play out on the floor. I don't want to play all in. I don't want to play 20 versus 20. Let's play a real game. So 2 years ago, we put this in motion. And it's back in motion this year. So we're telling every alum, hey, you are invited. We want you to come. Please keep in mind, if you say yes, you're saying yes to a 6v6 match where you're going to be subbing in. You're going to be subbing in and out. You're going to be running like you used to, instead of as Gabe said, a jungle ball match where everyone's guarding their 10-foot patch of grass, and it's like, well, this is my area right here, so really excited about that. I know Paul Wright wasn't going to play again unless it was 6v6. So it's going to be 6v6. It's going to be exciting. You're going to see the skill of these players able to be showcased once again, because there's going to be room for their skills to be showcased. So I can't be more excited about that, Jerry. It's something for 3 years I have been looking forward to. And I know the players, based on the reception that, the response we're getting on email, the players are excited for this as well. So it should be really a ton of fun for the alumni game, one that you don't want to miss.
I'm really looking forward to that. Now that you mention it, I had no idea. I thought it was going to be another, like they said, 20v20. So no, John, no 20v20. That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm excited for that.
In addition, we will be honoring pre-match the 1981-1982 NASL champion San Diego Sockers, the first ever Sockers championship. It is the 40th anniversary of the first ever Sockers championship.
Wow.
So we're going to be reuniting as many of the 1981-1982 San Diego Sockers as we can to come out pre-match and be honored and feted down on the floor. And obviously some of those guys may not be of an age to run 6v6 in the halftime match at that point. I mean, their athletic prime was 40 years ago, but I can't wait. So it's going to be a really special night. Those nights, there's no club, Jerry, in the country that matches the Sockers lore and tradition and history and heritage, and to have the ability to honor that in a really special way by bringing back so many players that fans remember from the past, and also to bring back those champions from 40 years ago. I think March 6th is going to be one of the great nights of the year.
Yeah. Mark it on your calendar, everybody.
Last announcement. We, as you know very well, Jerry, we had a little struggle last week with one of our plans. And we had originally planned for San Diego Loyal to be out on February 27th before their season kicked off, just like Wave on the 25th, to do a halftime pep rally. The Loyal let us know that the 27th wasn't going to work for them because the 26th, they have a road preseason match. And on the 28th, they have their all-day media day. And so, we've worked with Loyal. We've re-coordinated with them, kind of circled the wagons a bit. And I'm excited to announce that the San Diego Loyal will make a full team appearance, including their gaffer, Landon Donovan, and Nate Miller and Ricardo Campos and the rest of the San Diego Loyal. And that will be during their season. It will be in our second to last home game and the other biggest game on the Sockers schedule, which is March 31st, Sockers hosting Florida Tropics, the team with the #1 record in the MASL. That is a Thursday, 7 o'clock kickoff. It is our one weeknight game of the entire year. It'll be a Thirsty Thursday, $2 Bud Light Thursday night at Pechanga Arena, San Diego, but it will also be San Diego Loyal night. So the Loyal will be there, full team appearance at halftime. If we need to, we'll hire a couple of them to play the second half for us. If we're losing by 2 or 3 goals, we'll see if Moshe Bani, Toomey, what do you got, babe? What do you got? You got a half for us? Elijah, what do you say? You got a half for us?
And a 2-hour contract sign right here.
Yeah, exactly. 10-day contract. How about a 20-minute contract? We just need you for this next shift. Let's go.
Just to mention, as of right now, first place Florida Tropics.
Yes, that's true. Florida's played already 10 home games, I think, out of their 12. So they're going to be a road warrior team in the end of the year. But also, Florida's a really good team. Florida's a really good team.
Yeah, right. Oh, they're good. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, you know what? That actually reminded me to add something to MASL News. So thank you for that. $2 beer, says John San Diego 619. Enough said. Absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot of exciting things coming up in the second half of the Sockers home schedule. I'm really, really excited for both the quality of the competition, because, I mean, look, Ontario is a great team, but we just had a whole lot of Ontario and Tacoma in the first half of the home schedule. Now you've got Kansas City and Milwaukee and Florida, but you've also got, again, in the home, the regular season finale, April 3rd, you've got Ontario, and who knows whether that's a battle for first place or what, at the end of the year. So you've got high quality competition. Chihuahua and Tacoma, the other two teams coming in on the second half home schedule. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. sdsoccers.com/tickets. Let's get everyone out to the arena. Look, we had to suffer through the first half of this schedule. We had to suffer through some of the worst attendance that the Soccers have ever had. It's really time, San Diego. It is time. The mandate's lifting. The wave is cresting. Things are settling down. We're in a healthy place again. It's time to support your San Diego Soccers. And for all of you diehards, you tier ones, you Soccers Overtime listeners, it's time for you to put on that proselytizer's hat. We need you to become our Franciscan monks roaming the countryside, converting people. We need conversions. We need to convert more San Diego Soccer fans. And converting people to a team that's 10-0-1 should be easier than other challenges. So let's see that happen. Okay, let's spend the rest of the time here on the pod, Jerry, talking MASL news, because I think there's a lot of people who were unnerved by some stuff that came out over the course of the last week, and I'd like to talk through it a little bit before we get into some trades, some acquisitions, and a check of the standings. So let's dig into it a little bit. The MASL released some guidelines last week. They came out have you noticed, Jerry? Everything seems to come out the day after our podcast.
Yeah, it's great. It's like they're sabotaging us, Craig. I don't like this.
I think they figured something out. I think they figured something out.
Conspiracy, I tell you.
They said, hey, what's the best way to keep those guys from having a hot take? Make them have 6 days to chew on it before they talk about it.
Tuesday after 6:30, we should release news.
It's so true. So the MASL released a 2-page memo, a memorandum, and it was generally unpopular. It was not received, I think, very well in most corners of MASL fandom. We are talking on a podcast. One of the things on the memorandum is fines available for people on live streaming game broadcasts, but it doesn't say podcast. So we can talk about this. And that's fine. The first rule that got the most smoke, Jerry, last week, I'm here to say is much ado about nothing. I think it's a little bit of a nothing burger. And that is the team on-field celebration rule.
Mm-hmm.
Because previously in the MASL, basically every time a team scored a goal, the whole bench would empty for that team. The whole team would run out to midfield. They'd all hug. They'd all gather. They'd all walk back to the bench. The league changed the rules starting Friday to say that only the players who are on the floor when the goal is scored can celebrate the goal, with the exception of a golden goal, an overtime game winner. And that furthermore, if the whole team comes running off the bench to celebrate a goal, that the first time it's a warning, but then it's a $250 and then a $500 and then a $1,000 team fine and then a repeating $1,000 team fine. So you could rack up a lot of fines in one game if you scored 10 goals and kept having the whole team run off the bench. This was really, this went over like a lead balloon with every player, every coach, and Callan in our comments hits the nail on the head. Sounds like a hockey rule. That's exactly what it is, Callan. It's a hockey rule. And what I have been told is that the league's stance on this is that they think it's better for television. They think that there will be more telegenic celebrations when there isn't a big crowd of players on the floor. When you
Okay.
talk about it, Jerry, it's not fun, right? It's a no fun league rule. It's not fun. But the reason I say it's a nothing burger is because I watched the match Sunday, the Sockers in Tacoma. I watched the match Monday, the Fury in Tacoma. The players on the field celebrate the goal. Nobody noticed that anything changed. You know, nobody noticed. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal. It's something it's irritating, but it's not a big deal. And the second you get over it, you realize you didn't care. You know what I'm saying? It's like the second you actually see it happen, you're like, oh, I don't really care that the backup keeper is out on the floor after every goal giving somebody a slap on the butt. It's just not that big a deal. So it was very, very unpopular, but I kind of feel like it's a nothing burger.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest. I didn't notice a difference at all, and I think is it already in effect at this point?
It starts Friday.
Starts Friday. Okay. Well, I mean, I understand and I'll maybe play a little bit of devil's advocate for those of you that think this is silly. It's somewhat, but at the same time, you have to understand that the league is going to start making decisions. I would assume that this is not going to be the first time that we're going to get something changed that maybe you're used to for the past couple of years, because the league does want to seem more professional and be more professional and be taken more seriously, and so they're going to take steps that they believe are necessary in order to get to that point. And it's going to be little tiny things that, little tweaks here and there that are going to get us there. So, I mean, if that's what it's going to do, if it's going to get us more notoriety, it's going to maybe put us somewhere that is, I don't know, like an ESPN or something like that, or a Paramount Plus, or you never know. So, like, if it's going to help us with the quality and to also extend the reach of the league as a whole, I think it's a given. Like, I'm willing to give that little tiny thing up, which I think is still silly. Like you said, it's nothing, in order for that to happen. And I hope that other people agree with me on that.
Yeah, I think it's a small technical adjustment. My one thing I would say is, why are you doing this in the middle of the year? Because when you do it in the middle of the year, everyone sees it, and everyone has a comment, and everyone has an opinion and a complaint. And if you did something like this in the off season, to be honest, I don't think anyone would notice. And I really, really don't think it affects the on-field product. I just don't. It's once you see it, you see the players celebrating. It's the same as they always did. It's not like, now, if they had said, hey, Tavoy Morgan, you're going to get fined $250 every time you dance, or every time you have, like when Tavoy and Charlie did their little shadow boxing thing after a goal a couple matches ago. Like, if the league was cracking down on stuff like that, I'd be going ballistic, because it's just dumb. You don't want to take the entertainment value out of the league. But this is, I don't think the extra 8 guys jumping off the bench is quite as exciting as you actually maybe think it is when you hear people talking about it. That's my take on that. The other rule, which I think could potentially impact the Sockers' next home match, is this discussion about areas on the field where there is not glass present. Okay, so at Pechanga Arena, there are several places where there is no glass separating the fans from the field. Of course, we have our party on the pitch area. Really, all of the main part, the main drag on both the north and south wall doesn't have glass. It's in the corners where you have the high glass. And the new league memorandum says that fans should keep a 4 to 6 foot distance between themselves and the players in those circumstances. And furthermore, says you can't have anything sitting on top of the boards, or anything draped or extending out over the boards onto the field of play. I know that for our seventh man guys like Gabe and Cowboys, this is the one that hits home, because that's where you are, is in the front row, in the first row, and that's your fan experience. All I can speak to is what I've understood the intent to be. My understanding of the intent is that it's twofold. On one side, it is to not have fans be struck by the soccer ball leaving the field of play at velocity, because there is one owner in particular that is extremely vocal about that topic. And the other is to prevent fans or others from bringing themselves into the field. And I think of, for example, a rival team's mascot that regularly reaches across and bangs on the glass, bangs on the boards with his little paw hands, and does that. And I think they're trying to get rid of that. I don't think they're trying to tell specifically Gabe and Cowboys to like back off. Maybe not to put a vuvuzela in someone's ear. But whatever. I kind of look at this, guys, as a nothing burger too. And I'm seeing it in the comments like, oh yeah, whoa, all those soccer balls going 120 miles an hour, striking fans. Like, yeah, that's
Craig,
basically not happening.
Craig, I almost got hit in the head by a Michael Ramos hit during warmups the other day. So I'm on the opposite side of it. Okay. No, I'm not really. No, it's just so silly. I mean, I had a phone in my face, so I was watching him, and I was able to get out of the way. And clearly, like, they're not purposefully doing that, but their accidents happen, so I understand it, but I also don't at the same time. It's kind of like, okay, but okay, it's one of those situations. But hey, if it keeps the cat off the boards, I'm okay with that.
Striker, stay away from the board, Striker.
We know we're talking about you, Striker.
I hope this is a nothing burger too. The very, very last thing that this league needs is for some of its most diehard connected fans to be upset going to the game because someone threw a vice principal-y type rule down on them, or like, are we really, the thing that really gets me is like, are we expecting that there's going to be some fan like calling in a violation like you see in PGA golf tournaments? It's like, is there going to be some fan on the Inland Empire yes, hello, Mr. John Raymond. Hi, this is Henrietta calling from Ontario, and I saw a man reach across, and his vuvuzela was within 4 feet of one of our players' fine time. And then you get a letter from the league and says, "Oh yeah, we spotted it. You were fine." Like, that better not happen. That better not happen.
I love that you keep using Ontario. Like, we don't like those guys. No, we need to get a vuvuzela that's 6 feet long for Gabriel. Problem solved. Just sit 4 feet away, right? And then I don't know how that works. I mean, there has to be like a gray area there somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, but again, we'll see how it works off. I mean, it works out, I guess. And that's going into effect on Friday too. Like, all of these are Friday.
Yeah.
Going into effect. Okay. Yeah.
A lot of places have glass up all the way around.
Mm-hmm. They already do. Like, that's just how it's set up, how their setup is.
Yeah. And like Ontario on Monday's game, they put their glass up all the way around. They hadn't done that in the past, and they did. They put it up all the way around. So, hey, look, they did that. The Sockers aren't going to put the glass up all the way around. I don't believe that is not the intent. That is not what I haven't heard anything along those lines for the San Diego Sockers. So, let's, as we always do, right? Let's just utilize our best judgment as fans. I think we all know where the lines are, where the real lines are in terms of when you're doing something that could be disruptive, or whether you're doing things that are being competitive by being a fan. Like, as Gabe is saying right now, we never vuvuzela in their ears. It's at the team in general, and that's right. That's right. So, I don't think that they're like going, hey, let's really crack down to make things worse for fans. I don't think that's their intent. I think they're trying to make small professional adjustments. And I think in particular that one owner has been very, very vocal about one issue and that the league is reacting to it. So, that is what it is, and I heard that owner in an interview speaking about, taking on the ball once again and basically taking on flight and taking on the ball. And, that's going to get wherever it gets. That's a soap opera for Flight Weekly podcast, I guess. I don't even want to get into it. I'm not gonna pawn it off on Striking Fury. I'm not gonna pawn it off on anybody. Like, I don't want to mess with that thing. I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So, it is what it is. I don't think it's going to impact the fan experience in San Diego. I think memos like this are just amazing for bitching about on Facebook. That's what I really think. I think stuff like this is incredible for creating comments threads and getting everybody all spun up and getting everybody all worked up. And then when you actually get to the enactment of it, it becomes kind of like, what was that afternoon that we spent getting all mad? And it's my hope. It's my sincere hope that that's where we're going with this stuff. The league also in that same, go ahead.
We have okay, these are little minor things, and just in my experience in sports in general, I think this kind of thing happens with leagues where, fans are allowed to disagree, and we're gonna agree to disagree sometimes, and it is what it is. My only concern and my main, I guess, thought about all of this is that they do have a list of priorities, and the bigger priorities, as of right now, they haven't really touched on what is a much bigger priority than these little things. Maybe this was like an easy fix type of thing that they wanted to just put out there to show, hey, some work is being done and we're moving some things along, whatever it may be. But my worry is that those top priorities are not being looked at yet. And I don't think that's the case. I'm not saying that's the case. I just want to start seeing a little bit more come out as far as, the bigger priorities, which is, we talked about it a little bit, the officiating, right? And that sort of thing. That's what I care about. And I think a lot of people on here as well have talked about, there's other things that we should be worrying about. I do believe that they are working on those. I think that those are just bigger issues that are going to take a little bit more time to work through. At least that's my hope. I guess we'll see. That's my only worry, is that they're not working on those, and so, hey, at this point, it's been potatoes. We'll see if we can get to the meat of it soon and really start changing some things around. Really,
yeah,
like field size. That's another one.
Yeah, field size, visas. Officiating. There are standardization of broadcast, standardization of marketing. Everyone getting on the same page. There's a lot of things that the MASL can work on and can improve. And are these things tiny little chestnuts compared to the great big nuts? Like, yes, absolutely. Yes. And that's why I think everybody has had the reaction they've had. I mean, look, I didn't tell the league to put that stuff out. They're the ones who did it, and we react to it. But I do think, and that was kind of the point I wanted to go through them. I wanted to talk them through, because when you talk them through, it's not as big a deal as when you see it on the black and white of the paper and you go like, holy cow, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? It's irritating, but I don't think it's consequential. That's my takeaway. I don't think it's consequential. And look, the last part, which is fines for criticism, every league has that. Like, every league has it. Do I like it? No. Do the players like it? No. Have players said to me, I may choose not to do a league interview now because I've been fined for something I've said speaking honestly? Yeah, I heard that last week. And, we'll see how it all plays out. But I'm very much used to that as being a member of a front office and as somebody who's been in pro sports for a long time. So, and look, the social media thing, everyone should be smart on social media. And when people do really stupid things on social media, they should be fined for them. And they are. So I don't have to say one other word about that.
Don't.
And I won't.
Okay, don't.
Trades. let's talk trades, because
Oh my goodness.
something happened last week, and I want to dig into this for just a second. There's something new happened this week, but something happened last week that could be major impact for the league. Florida and Utica swung a trade last week, and for Utica, it was, I mean, we've seen it, right? Utica City FC is just, they're probably the most beleaguered team in our league right now, because, Chihuahua's at the bottom of the standings. They're an expansion team. They started on the road. They've got visa issues. I think we understand why Chihuahua's where they are. Tacoma's not had a good year. Harrisburg has not had a good year, but Utica thought they'd be a contender. Utica thought they were going to be one of the best teams in the league, and they've lost all of these games. They're 2-10 now, I think.
Why does it feel like they're throwing in the towel already? Like that's what it feels like.
I think they were, they are shaking things up in a big way, and we saw that when they came to town, right? Bringing in the 43-year-old Everton, bringing in the 41-year-old
you're right.
Pablo da Silva, right?
Yep.
So Utica brought in two legit players in a trade with the Florida Tropics last week. Forward Andrew Hoxie, the man with the handlebar mustache, and midfielder Lucio Gonzaga, who formerly played for Utica City FC. Florida acquired Junior Alencar and Ricardo Dieguez from Utica City. Now, why does this matter, Jerry? Ricardo Dieguez is or was for a long time Florida's all-time leading scorer in just 2 years before moving to Utica. Dieguez has not been able to suit up for 2 years because of P1 visa restrictions. But in 3 seasons previously in Florida, in 57 games, Dieguez 69 goals, 29 assists. In the 12 games he got to play with Utica, 19 goals. Ricardo Dieguez is one of the better players in the MASL. And in the press release that Florida put out, it says he is expected to be available to play February 12th in Dallas. Now, that's the line I want to focus on for multiple reasons, okay? Reason number one, if true, Florida just improved significantly, adding a top 6 player to their team, to a 10-1 team that was already leading the league in scoring, becoming just that much more dangerous. Florida is the other team other than San Diego where you go, who do you stop? Oh, you're going to stop Carvalho? Well, what about Dos Santos? Oh, you're going to stop? What about Drew Ruggles? What about Taylor Bond? What about, and you can go down the list. I mean, like they've really been a high scoring team. Enrique, and the list goes on. If you add Dieguez to that, that's serious. That's serious. But the other thing is, Jerry, if Dieguez's visa got approved, that means the league can go back on a bunch of other players and say, hang on a second, what about these visas? Because the one thing that they haven't really had lately is precedent. They haven't had the ability to have, hey, look at these 3 other players who you just renewed their visas. This guy's from the same league, renew his visa too. So if this is a long way of saying, if Florida gets Dieguez, could the Sockers get Pollo by the end
Everybody
of the year?
in the comments, as soon as you said that, it starts blowing up. Pollo, Pollo, Pollo.
It's true.
It's true.
And there's other players in this league. And I would rather have this league at full strength with every one of the best players in the league available to play than the situation that we have right now where, you've got a lot of guys that are on the outside looking in.
100%. I mean, who doesn't want the league at full force? And man, the visa issue is something that we can't not talk about. It's talked about everywhere on social media, on podcasts. It's the one thing, again, that one of the priorities on that list for MASL. And I think that's huge. It's a huge step forward if they can now use that, as you mentioned, and hey, what about these other guys? Same exact league. What's going on? And so, I mean, really, really, I'm lighting all the candles around my house. Make sure we can get this figured out because I want Iram to come back just as much as everybody else does. Clearly, like, wow, I see all these comments coming in. Oh, and there's that.
Yeah.
You're
Ishmael
gone.
Rojo is another guy who has never been able to get that visa. So I'm laying this out for us all to tune in on the 12th and find out. Was Florida blowing smoke with that comment in the press release, or is it real? Is Dieguez back? And if Dieguez is back, I mean, look, our guest was the guy who was talking to me about this last week, Jerry, where we talked about the Dieguez trade, and I told him, I go, yeah, it says in the release Dieguez will play February 12th, and he was like, whoa, you're telling me Dieguez got his visa approved? Well, that would be huge for the league. That's the first thing he said, is that would be huge for the league if it was true. So I hope that's true. John Sandiego's right as well. If Chihuahua could get all their players across the border, changes their team entirely.
100%. Big time.
So, I'm rooting for this. I hope it's true. If it comes at the expense of Florida becoming an even better team, well, that's the challenge we'll have to overcome.
So be it.
So be it. Exactly right. Monday, you mentioned it earlier, Jerry. You alluded to it. Ontario got to play Tacoma on the second half of the back-to-back. Look, Tacoma's probably got one winning effort in them each weekend when they have to play two games with the shape of their roster right now. And that's exactly what we saw on Monday night. Tacoma got the first goal, and then Ontario got 8, and then Tacoma got the last goal. It was 8-2, the final score. So the Fury got the 3 points. They got the big convincing win, and it's the opposite of last weekend, right, Jerry, where we got the convincing win over Tacoma, and then Tacoma went down there and beat them in an overtime shootout. Here we beat Tacoma in overtime, and Tacoma goes down and gets curb stomped by the Fury. Really, really not a surprising result at all.
No. I mean, I have nothing to say. I think we kind of expected that. They showed up and made it such a difficult game against us. They were going to be a totally different team the following day. Just physically, mentally, emotionally, I think that probably also didn't help. They played a great game. And I think you said it on the telecast, Craig. This is a game they should have won. The Sockers took it. And that wears. I mean, the next day, it doesn't give you enough time to kind of get over it and move on. I mean, they're professionals, but I personally wouldn't have gotten over it, and it showed on the scoreline. I mean, Ontario did what they had to do. Man, cheeky goal from Tayu, or assist from Tayu.
Yeah, that backheel pass was nice.
Man,
that was a nice pass.
I ain't even gonna lie, that was awesome. So it's rough times right now for Tacoma. Why'd you show up against us though? Why'd you pick us? I'm just saying.
I really think they go 20 minutes into the match and they figure out, is this the one that we've got a chance, or is this the one that we don't have a chance? And that's just the way it was. And John asks, why did Ontario dominate Tacoma? And I think that's why. I mean, Tacoma is a vastly undermanned roster right now. They don't have the Cox brothers. The UCSD kid, Alessandro Canale, has an ankle sprain. He was out this weekend. So it was really Pereira, Dantas, Caceres. I mean, that's Ramos, like that. That's about it for their Corey Keats. That's about it for their club right now. And if Waltman's great, they can be in the match. And if Waltman is tired on the second day of a back-to-back, they're not going to be in the match. So that in a moment, that'll lead us to our weekend preview. And I think that's something to consider this weekend as well. If you win Friday, the Saturday result, I think, becomes a lot more certain. But I got to bring this in at the end of the podcast, Jerry, because the Fury made an announcement in the hour before we came on the air that they have made a trade with Utica City. And it's another player who was not playing for Utica. So it's very interesting that Utica has been clearing out the closet of these players that were on their roster, but were not drawing into their games. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was a personality conflict. I don't know if it was a medical issue or what. But Anua Obasi, who's a name in this league, was traded to the Ontario Fury today for nothing, for future considerations. So given to the Ontario Fury. Fury don't have to give up anything for a he's getting older, a 33, 34-year-old, Anua Obasi, you know, a UK native, but a guy who, I'll tell you, 4 or 5 years ago when he was playing for Baltimore Blast was really good. 6'4", he's got a mean step over, he's got a mean shot, he is very smooth with the ball. He's a player who has a lot of USL championship experience in his playing career. And Anua Obasi, that's an ad for Ontario. You know, I mean, every time the Fury adds a player that the Sockers have cut, the Sockers don't exactly shudder. You know, the Sockers don't exactly go like, oh no, what are we going to do? The player that we released, you signed. They don't care about that. What they care about is players that they would want on their team. And Obasi is a guy I know Craig Giles has talked about for years as having a ton of respect for. So if he's healthy and if he's available, Jerry, Obasi's an ad. Obasi's a top 8 player, I think, for Ontario.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he can bring to that squad. Obviously, Ontario is already a pretty good team where they are. And, you know, adding somebody like Obasi, it sounds like will add to their numbers, which is very important. If we're looking at like goal differential and things like that in the standings, at the end of the day, it could actually, you know, at the end of the season, it might actually be important. So I'm interested to see how that goes and how much he can add as well to this Ontario squad.
Sean Baker asked us a question. We've been taking a lot of questions out of our feed, but of course you can follow us on social media. You can follow Jerry at Cheeto Jerry. You can follow me at 619 Sports. And I got a tweet before the broadcast, Jerry, that said, I can never make it live, but I enjoy listening on the podcast. Question: how do teams players keep track of keeper touches, the new rule, during the game? Is it up to everyone to keep track individually, or is someone on the sidelines helping with a visual cue? Great question, Sean. Allow me just to answer this for you. There's 2 different things that happen. First of all, the players do track it themselves, especially the keeper. And the keeper will say and be communicating to their defense if he's out of the play. But also the on-field officials are instructed to make a verbal prompt to indicate whether the keeper is on or off for that particular possession, whether his touch has been used or not. So the answer to that question is it's not entirely up to everyone individually. The keepers themselves track it, but also the officials are instructed to give a verbal prompt to note whether the keeper's touch has been utilized or has not been utilized. Hasn't been a big deal, but do appreciate that question from Sean on social media. All right, last thing, buddy. We mentioned it earlier. The Fury are 5 points behind the Sockers right now. Let's take a look at the schedule and see what's ahead. Because for Ontario, I would suggest that their next match is their biggest match of the season. The Ontario's next match, the Fury's next match, is next Tuesday, a week from tonight.
Oh, yeah, they're facing off against the returning champions,
the San Diego Sockers. That's right. So, by the way, this means Sockers Overtime live broadcast will have to be a day later next week. It'll have to be on Wednesday because the match is on Tuesday. We're not going to do the whole podcast and not have the match to talk about. So keep that in mind. This will be the first.
Let's just do it over. So no, Tuesday at 7:05. Join us here live as we talk about the game while it's going on. Watch party. No?
Oh man, I love it. So we'll have to push back to Wednesday next week, and then I think the week after or later, maybe the first week of March, right? We're going to push forward a day because you're going to be at Disneyland, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm taking my boys to Disneyland. That's right.
So there'll be a couple of times. There'll be a couple of times that we move it. Next week, we're going to have to move this back one day to Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So just keep that in mind. But that game for the Fury is so important, Jerry, because Ontario doesn't play until that match. They've got 7 full days off to practice and plan and plot, while the Sockers will play Friday in Tacoma and Saturday in Tacoma fly home Sunday, have one day, and then they go up to Ontario on Tuesday. So the Fury have what I call the lying in wait advantage. They've got the advantage of being home, rested, fresh, and the Soccer's coming in road weary for that game, playing their third game in 5 days.
Talk about having an advantage, huh? That seems super fair, Craig. There's a little bit of an advantage there. I'm just saying, I don't know. Seems a little weird, but yeah, no, it's part of the game. I think it's one of those things that these guys have been able to adapt pretty well, I would say, this season so far, having to play back to back. I mean, 5-10, that's craziness. And so here we are again. And it could be a good thing the way you just said it, but it could also be a bad thing for Ontario where they're not playing, and maybe us keeping the ball rolling, hopefully with a few wins before our match on Tuesday, February 15 against Ontario, it may be a benefit to us. You never know. So tune into that one. That's going to be a fun one.
No doubt. The rest of the Fury schedule is pretty darn interesting. We talked about the Sunday, February 27th match where they will host Kansas City. They will go to Tacoma for a back-to-back Friday, March 4th, Saturday, March 5th. Tuesday, March 8th, they will host Chihuahua at Toyota Arena. And a week later, Wednesday, March 16th, they will host Florida. Florida comes to Ontario twice, interestingly, in the month of March. That seems very random to me, but it's true. March 18th and 19th, a Friday, Saturday back-to-back, that's Ontario at Chihuahua. And I think if you're a Sockers fan, which if you're watching Sockers Overtime, you are, that's where you really want to see Chihuahua win once or twice, right? and really, put a little bit of a damper on the Fury's run. Because after that, Ontario will host Tacoma, they will go to Dallas, and then they end the year hosting Florida and traveling to us on Sunday, April 3rd. So it's not an easy schedule. 2 matches against Florida, 2 matches against San Diego, 2 road matches against Chihuahua for the Ontario Fury remaining. The Sockers have an extremely difficult schedule remaining with 2 East Coast trips to Baltimore, followed by back-to-back games in either Utica or Harrisburg, in this upcoming road trip. So should be very interesting. Very last thing, I just want to look at these standings as we go out. Not the division standings, because those don't matter. Let's look at the playoff standings. Florida in first place, 30 points. Kansas City, 27 points. San Diego, 27 points. Those are your division leaders. They are the 1, 2, 3 seeds right now. After that, it's the next 5 best point totals. Remember that. It's not second place in the division. It's nothing like that. It's the next 5 best point totals, regardless of where they come from. So, 4th position, the best wildcard team right now with 22 points, Ontario. In 5th place with 18 points, Dallas. In 6th place with 17 points, Baltimore. In 7th place with 16 points, St. Louis. And in 8th place on the playoff line with 12 points is Milwaukee. Out of the playoffs, Tacoma at 9 points, Utica and Harrisburg at 6 points, and Chihuahua, with the fewest games played in the league, only 8 games, but also the fewest points in the league, only 5 points. I think it's fascinating, Jerry, that 3 points separates 5th and 7th in the standings. 6 points separates 4th and 7th in the standings. This thing is going to juggle and jumble and move around. And to answer the question in the chat about do the top 2 teams get a bye? No. It's 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 in the first round. Home, best of 3, 2 full games and a mini game. And the team with a higher seed is going to be home in the second leg. So with that setup right now, with all the great work the Sockers have done, they would have to go to Baltimore for the first game and go play at the Baby Field at Sekou Arena, one of the toughest places to play in the entire MASL. That's how tough this league is right now. I think the only team that's going to feel good about their first round draw is the team that finishes number 1 in the standings and gets that 8th seed. Maybe you're happy with the 7th seed if it's if a Dallas falls down there or a St. Louis or something, but come on. If you're looking at playing maybe Milwaukee or Baltimore in the first round of the playoffs, that's nasty.
It's going to be fun. I mean, things are still going to change. Where we are right now means nothing really. because we're looking at these schedules, and I mean the soccer schedule coming up with those trips to Utica to Baltimore is going to be, pretty interesting. Or I'm sorry, to Baltimore. In Utica, and then we're going to see the Heat as well.
Yep.
So these are going to be great games. I'm excited. I think we have what we need in order to get it done, and now it's really up to them to get it done.
That's it, man. That's it. All right, so that's going to bring a wrap to this week's broadcast. Again, the soccer's Friday. That's a 7:30 kickoff in Tacoma. Saturday is 7 o'clock. The games are free and live and in HD on MASL TV on YouTube. Make sure to follow the Soccers on social media. None of us are making this trip in terms of your social media friends up to Tacoma, but we'll be doing the very best we can to bring you some of the sights and sounds from behind the scenes as well. And then again, one more time, a reminder, next Tuesday, the Soccers are playing in Ontario. So look for Soccers Overtime next week, Wednesday at 5 p.m. We'll move back 24 hours, keep the broadcast live, keep it on Twitch. We'll do it Wednesday at 5 p.m. next week, as at that point, the Soccers will be at the start of 10 days off, getting ready for that Kansas City match. So that should be a lot of fun. Until then, for Chiky Luna, our guest, I say, Jerry, thank you so much for holding the wires together during Chiky's interview, getting up on the roof, putting the tinfoil hat, adjusting the tinfoil hat, keeping everything going. I appreciate you and all the hard work you do, man. No one knows how hard you work behind the scenes for this organization, except for me. And I want to say to you, thank you so much. And thank you for running this broadcast again tonight.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. It's a lot of fun. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us here and putting up with a little bit of the audio issues. That's fun, though. That's what makes this interesting, because we're live. If you're not listening to this live, you need to join us. Again, next week it will be Wednesday. We're here most Tuesdays, 5 p.m. on Twitch. Come in and hang out.
Come and hang out. Don't forget to follow us on social media at San Diego Soccers, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok, where our TikTok guys, Spencer and Blake, are just killing it. Follow us on TikTok. Enjoy all of our content. We, the Soccers, are creating content for you. Hopefully you enjoy it. Jerry, thanks so much, buddy. Have a great rest of your week.
See you soon.
For Jerry Jimenez, Craig Elston saying thanks to you. You made it to the end of the broadcast. We thank you so much, whether you are watching or whether you are listening on the podcast. Have a wonderful weekend. We will talk to you next Wednesday. And until then, so long and go Soccers.